to the Free Kick Podcast. My name is Todd, and why did I stutter? Well, that's because I just came back from a whole different podcast, part one, part two, whatever you guys want to call it. I almost felt like saying their intro, but I did not, so that's why we had the little stutter there. But we're going to talk about news that broke on Thursday, and this is kind of a emergency contact in regards to Alejandro Bedoya and Kai Wagner. You guys may be saying, what are you talking about? And that's because the Athletic dropped a bombshell Thursday evening. So we'll get into that. But this podcast, I told you guys whenever I last recorded the podcast that I would probably be appearing on a couple podcasts this week. And we would have multiple podcasts for you guys to listen to. And that's exactly what we got. So, like I mentioned, I mean, whatever order you guys are listening to, this is either part one or part two with the conversation between myself, Kyle, and Jillian Almany from the one team we agree on. So, welcome back to the podcast, guys.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Good to be back.
Good to be here, Todd. Yeah, literally 30 seconds. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, a lot of our conversation on Kyle and Jillian's podcast had to do about their experience at the Philadelphia Union Nashville game and the Tunnel Club. Kyle and I talked about our experiences at the 2023 Philadelphia Union Media Fantasy Camp. So we'll talk about that a little bit here as well. But we want to talk about, I mean, like I said, just the news that Tom Bogert and Pablo Maurer dropped with the Athletic in regards to Ale Bedoya and Kai Wagner. And so we won't spend too long talking about the fantasy camp because I feel like Kyle and I talked about that for a while on their podcast. So we'll go ahead and talk a little bit about it. So I don't want to really hit on what we talked about on that show because I want to make you guys go ahead and listen to that because, there would be no point of you guys listening to the same podcast twice, and definitely don't want to take listens away from each other's shows. So, Kyle, I'll ask you something about just the whole overall day. Why didn't you volunteer yourself for any of the running? Because, for people that are unaware, because we definitely didn't talk about this on Kyle's show, we started the day off with a light jog outside on the practice fields, and then we did a whole bunch of stretches that I sucked at, and Kyle definitely knew how to do every single one of them. And yeah, probably because I didn't stretch proper is probably why I wound up getting pretty sore. But then we did a lot of running, which is with soccer. And we got split into like 5 or 6 different teams. And each person was essentially a team captain. They got charged with being in front of the line, leading all the exercises. Kyle, why weren't you up there? Why weren't you volunteering to be the team leader of your little squad?
Well, I'm looking at my tag team partner here next to me. She's giving me the devil's eyes right now. What's up with that?
Yeah, why didn't you step up, Kyle?
Well, I'm
got to be a leader.
I'm 44.
Suck it up, Buttercup.
I'm 44 now. Honestly, I was actually going to, and then Greg stepped up. Shout out to Greg Oldfield for like stepping up. Like he was just like, "I'll do it." I'm like, "Oh, okay, all right."
Good for him.
I mean, good for him. Like, I had no problem. It was just, I kind of was already in prime too, just because I wanted to see what my body can do. Because I haven't been on the field since I stopped playing soccer in 97, 98. So yeah, I mean, that was going to be an exciting time, but to your point, yeah, I dropped the ball on that. And to everybody out there, I apologize for dropping the ball.
Oh, wait. So I didn't even realize Greg was like your team captain. Why didn't Greg? And then they made us do a 40-yard dash between everybody that was the team captain. So why didn't Greg do it?
Well, I was all excited. I was like excited. And the other guy's like, I'll do it. I'm like,
that's what
okay. I was just enjoying the day, just like getting to know everybody. It was weird because I was like, I really kind of want to know what my like. I think I probably would have been like 5'2", 5'3".
I don't even know what mine was.
You were like 5'4".
Dang, for real? Nice.
Yeah, you were actually like you were in, how many teams were there? 4?
No, there was like 5 or 6 people that ran the 40-yard dash.
Because then there was somebody else from like that one team that was like, wasn't like mostly Sporting Serotonin or like.
Yeah, it might have been.
Yeah. Anyway, like somebody else got in line. There was that one guy that ran like sub 5.
Yeah, he ran a 5.1, dude. That was crazy.
And like he was smoking. I mean, the guy was like, yeah, I ran track. I'm like, I ran track too. And yeah, I could tell you ran track. But no, I was kind of like watching. I'm like, I kind of want to get in there. And then they're like, all right, we're moving on to the next episode. So yeah, I dropped the ball on that. Yeah, sorry, hon.
Do better, Kyle.
I know I got to do better.
Yeah, like my whole team was like, oh yeah, you look like the fastest, so you're going to be leading us and you're going to be the one doing the 40-yard dash. I'm like, no, I don't want to do this. Like, I've got asthma, which I've never had growing up. And I realized this about a year or 2 ago when I started getting pretty heavy back into the gym. I'm like, dude, I cannot breathe with running. And then my doctor said, yeah, you probably have sports-induced asthma. And yeah, that absolutely sucked playing soccer. Like, the one thing, and to Kyle's point about not playing soccer in forever, I feel like I tell this story all the time. I haven't played soccer in forever because I'm technically not supposed to, because I've had too many concussions. And so I have a concussion headband. Well, this doesn't matter because this isn't video, so it wouldn't matter to you guys anyway. It's not a Peter Check helmet, so I made sure not to get that. But Kyle's like, oh, yeah, you should probably wear your concussion headband. And I absolutely did not yesterday. I don't know if you noticed this, Kyle, during the game, the big scrimmage we had, I had a chance to go out for a 50-50 ball against Paul Catrino, and I absolutely ducked out of that. I'm like, yeah, you can have that one. I'm not going up for this header.
I did not see that. The only thing I remember was like, no one was really getting too physical.
Yeah,
let's
like
be
that.
honest. Yeah, it was. It was just everybody was having fun. A couple people doing moves here. Like, I kind of got tangled up. Like, that was the most, you know what I'm talking about? Like, that ball down towards our end where the one guy and I just kind of got tangled up, and then he ended up the ball just kind of spurred away, and he kind of broke loose and got the ball. But that was, like, the only time, like, him and I, like, bodied each other. And I was like, oh, okay. We're going to just get on each other and try to scramble for this ball. But no, there was not a lot of contact. Yeah, if at all. I mean, there was somebody did do a slide tackle, but it was kind of like were you for that? You were there.
See that.
No, it was down my end. Like somebody in front of me, like went for a ball and like slide tackled, and like, it was kind of weird. Like, cause I think I told Billy, like, yeah, cause he asked if anybody slide tackle. I'm like, there was like one slide tackle the entire day because it was right in front of me. I'm like, whoa, okay. Not getting involved in that one.
Yeah, Jillian would have killed you.
Yeah. Jillian would have killed me. We had my dad.
Kyle's had a few concussions too. So
yeah. And then my dad was like, are you sure at 44 you really want to be doing this? You haven't touched the ball in 20 years or so. Do you really want to do this? I'm like,
Steve Beck would get out there and do that.
Your dad would.
My dad.
I did channel my inner Steve Beck because I was like, you darn right I want to get out there again.
Yeah, my dad would do that.
Yeah.
Question 2, like, how many females were there?
Yeah, there was actually, there was a few. Yeah, I would say Devin Kearney from WIP, Breland Moore from the Fox station in Philly. 2 other girls, I did not get their names. I feel bad about that. And maybe there was one more. Maybe. And then Renee Washington. She was supposed to be there, but she wasn't there.
She had something went on.
Okay. Yeah, I was curious. Like, yeah. So
yeah, you should also be there.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't played soccer since like 3rd grade. I did play field hockey for a whole bunch of years, but I pretty much devoted my time to swimming. So I'm not so sure I'd be good at soccer. My sisters were very good, but no one needs to see me play soccer.
I do.
Right. I mean, I guess deep down inside, I have it in the genes. Maybe I'd do okay, but yeah, I don't know about that. But I'd love to go experience it. So, yeah, I'm a little jealous that you got to go to that. Not gonna lie, but it seemed like a really cool experience from what I heard.
It was. It was magical.
Yeah, and I'm trying to make the excuse here. That's why I brought up I've only played soccer 2 times in like the last 6 or 7 years because of concussions. And I'm trying to make that as an excuse why I was so bad. But here's Kyle and Jillian saying they haven't played in ages, and I guess, well, I've played soccer more recently than both of you guys, so I can't use that as an excuse. But I don't know. I thought because we started the day out by a light jog, then we went into stretches, and then we went into 2 passing drill games. Then we went into mini scrimmages of like 4-on-5, 5-on-5, 4v4. I don't know. I forget what it was. And then we went into that big scrimmage game. And like the passing and everything, I was good with. Like I was like, my touch was actually surprisingly well. You had a good touch, Kyle. Then we had to like shoot in a small goal. That was good enough. And I was like, all right, this is going good. And then once we got into the mini scrimmages, I was so bad. And I said this to you, Kyle. I was like, man, I run, but soccer sprints and turning does not compare to long distance running.
It doesn't.
To make those quick sprints, you're going one direction, now you're going to change the next, and then the other. And it's like, man, you're moving all these muscles that you don't normally move on a day-to-day basis. And then your lungs aren't used to that quick change of pace. And I'm like, I am dying out here. Like, this sucks trying to be a professional soccer player. Now, granted, those guys do it every single day, so it's probably nothing to them. But yeah, when you don't practice like that every single day, yeah, it was difficult. But I mean, a really awesome experience. And it was cool. We talked about Ryan Richter, really being impressed with our group. That was cool, getting praise from Ryan. And I am now Team Ryan Richter. So got to complete the coaching staff interviews for the podcast and get Ryan on the pod. And we'll have the whole coaching staff. So got to make that a goal of mine.
You really do. Because my level of appreciation after yesterday, just the communication as a coach, right? The energy as a coach. And the fact that, yes, he came up through the academy and he's still learning. That's the other thing that really impressed me. He's still learning. He's got a long way to go, but he's already there. And you brought it up on our episode that, yeah, he's not going to be Pat Noonan. Pat Noonan was a bar. Look at his success right now in MLS. I mean, that guy was advanced to begin with. I think Ryan's going to have a bright future as he continues to grow. I think he's going to be a good soccer coach. And I agree with Jim with what he said. I mean, Jim said in the locker room, he's going to be a future MLS coach. And I do agree after spending a day with Ryan Richter that he will be. So excited to see what his future is as well. So it was an awesome day. And you're right. I'm a personal trainer. I work every day with athletes. I work with people, training sessions in my Y with people with chronic diseases. I work out myself. And, I do cardio probably you're always joking. I'm always doing cardio. But then when I got on that field, I was surprised I still had my top end speed. I just couldn't have my top end speed for more than 10, 15 seconds. Yeah. It's a different level. And then by the end of that, I'm laying down there going, oh man, I got so much lactate right now. I had so much lactate in my lungs. I'm like, oh man, I'm feeling half nauseous right now. But it was fun. And to your point about playing soccer, like my dad called and said, hey, how'd it go? And I said, I kind of want to do this. He goes, well, when I was 44, I was playing indoor soccer. I'm like, yeah, because you drug me along. And now I kind of want to do it again. Like, it was fun. Like, and it was a good time. It was a good time, great networking opportunity. And yeah, just cool to be around some great people in that Philadelphia Union staff.
Yeah, I got to give a shout out to Kevin Kincaid from Crossing Broad. It's Always Soccer in Philadelphia podcast. Greg Oldfield, Matt Ralph from Philadelphia Soccer Now. Shout out to Luke McClung, one half of the Doopy Brothers, Paul Catrino from Sporting Serotonin, and from Views from the Bridge podcast, Chuck Booth, also from Views from the Bridge. Johnny Zapata from All City, formerly Duke by the River podcast. Who else am I forgetting that I knew there? That actually may have been it. A lot of Matt told us a lot of TikTok people there. I'm like, don't have TikTok, so I don't know who any of these people are. If I forgot somebody who I knew who you were, I definitely do feel sorry. But I was a little bit surprised that there wasn't any more people in the press box there than what there were. Did hear for some people that they didn't get an invite. And I mean, I definitely get that because I didn't get invited last year. But I made it be known that I had some interest and got Kyle and I invited this year. So very, very thankful, very grateful to the Philadelphia Union for the invite and just seeing what it's like to be a professional soccer player for the day, just what goes into the day-to-day routine of those professional athletes. And yeah, it's definitely difficult. And shout out to Jack Elliott also for, surprising us, showing up there for the day. And just all the coaching staff that actually stayed around, that didn't have to stay around and chase balls when people kick the balls out of play. So that was cool. We didn't have to chase our own ball, but just a really great experience. And hopefully that came across on Kyle's podcast as well. And I know we maybe didn't talk about it as much as maybe you guys would have wanted us to. And if you guys want me to go in more depth, then we can do that for a later podcast. But we got to talk about the big news, you guys. Got to get Jillian back involved into the podcast. And that is the Athletics report on Alejandro Bedoya and Kai Wagner. So the Athletic, Tom Bogert, and Pablo Maurer are reporting and said the Philadelphia Union does not plan to offer a contract extension to club captain Alejandro Bedoya. Multiple sources briefed on the matter told The Athletic this week. If carried out as planned, the move would end Bedoya's 8-year tenure at the club, and his contract expires after the 2023 season. Bedoya, 36, was informed of the Union's plan in a conversation after a training session last week, so that was before the Nashville game. Bedoya approached Tanner and asked for some clarity on his situation, the sources said, and was told he would not be returning and that he'd need to find a new club. The conversations lasted less than 20 seconds, according to one source, which was confirmed independently by others aware of the encounter. And so just hearing that statement right there by Pablo and Tom, I'm not shocked that the conversation lasted less than 20 seconds. Because maybe you're a new follower of the podcast, maybe you're a new follower of the Philadelphia Union. This isn't the first time Ernst Tanner has done this with a Philadelphia Union player. He did it in 2019 with Harris Manoonan, told him, we're not bringing you back, and didn't speak to Harris anymore during his tenure at the club. And Harris came out and said, it's a professional business. I get it, right? He's making a business standpoint and no hard feelings lost. I mean, yeah, it sucks because Harris wanted to be in Philadelphia. But at the end of the day, it's a business, and Ernst decided we're a better team without Harris. And I think we would all agree that. Got tired of all the pointing and not defending that Harris would do, and everybody joked about it when he was on Cincinnati. And look, we got Jose Martinez out of that, so I think the Union made out quite well with letting Harris go. Then you look at Austin Trusty in the second half of 2019. Austin wouldn't agree to a new deal, and so Ernst Tanner decided, all right, we're not going to play in the second half of the season. We're going to let you not even make the match day squad for the most part. You're going to be cast away from the club. And then after the end of the season, he was traded to Colorado. And so I'm not shocked that Ernst Tanner had a 20-second or less conversation with Ale Bedoya. But at the same time, Ale has been here since 2016. He's completely transformed this club. And again, going back to people that maybe aren't aware of the situation with Ale, how he came to Philadelphia, it's quite a funny story. And I'm not sure if you guys know this, Kyle and Jillian. So Jim Curtin and Chris Albright, when he was at the club, they flew over to France, to Nantes, to look at Fernando Arrascaeta, the striker that they wind up signing on loan. That's Venezuelan also. And when they were over there, they noticed Ale Bedoya. And Bedoya thought that they were over there for him, but they were over there for Fernando. But they liked what they saw from Ale so much that the following year, they went over to Nantes again and asked Ale, would he have any interest in coming to the club? They told him, our plan is to fight for the playoffs, to get in the playoffs more consistent, to ultimately bring a trophy to Philadelphia. And that sounds like a really tough sell when the Union sucked for all those prior years. But to Ali's credit, he left his prime in Europe. He was a starter with the USMNT. Started every single game in the 2014 World Cup with the national team. And he left that all behind to go to Philadelphia to buy into that project. He still could have played in Europe. And this guy believed in Jim Curtin. He believed in Chris Albright. He believed in Jay Sugarman. And he has kept his word. He's been... Everybody gives Ernst Tanner the credit for transforming this club into what it is. And yes, Ernst deserves credit. But it starts with having a great leader in that locker room like Ale Bedoya. And we talked about on your show, Kyle, how the Union do a good job of creating this family atmosphere. And it starts with your captain. And to only give your captain 20 seconds of your time, that rubs me the wrong way. So your guys' thoughts on this conversation? I'll go to Jillian first.
You can pretty much sum up my words with the sound bite.
Yeah, not good.
Yeah. Because I mean, I get it with, I think a lot of people expected that Ale might not be back next season. Okay. I mean, he's around my age. Okay. I get it. But, I think just the way it was handled, just the timing sucks. And just the way this came out, like, I feel like he deserves better. I wish this could have waited because now this is right before they're going into playoffs. And, just this drama that's being all stirred up right now, which is, just not ideal. But, if he was going to retire, I'd like to see that just come out on, his terms, him announcing, oh, I'm going to retire at the end, not coming out this way. And every time I've interacted with Ale, nothing but class. He, he plays with so much heart. Every time he's on that field, he's giving it his all. He really, he'll interact with the fans. I mean, when we were in Colorado, and Shelby and I were in the stands there, and we went down. He came and shook every single fan's hand that was there in Colorado, and he's just been class. And I just hate the way this came out. It really, really stinks that it came out that way.
It does. Trying to think here. You kind of hit on all the points I wanted to do. But to my point, on this whole thing, I think there comes a point where you have to treat individuals differently. And what I mean by that is Ernst needs to show a little bit more compassion. There are some people where, okay, yeah, maybe it's time, and look, we're not bringing you back. It's the captain. I mean, you say what you want, but you at least give him a send-off. Like, it's not just like, hey, we're going to say goodbye and sneak you out the back door. He deserves that for rejuvenating his career last year. I mean, he was one of the reasons we got to where we got last year. And when you look at his statistics, he had a career season. I mean, I was looking at him today. 2022 was one of his better years in MLS. So there's that. And I can ramble on about statistics. I'm not going to. But at the end of the day, he deserves better. But also, I get where Ernst's coming from. You got to move on at some point. I mean, I've had those discussions with my athletes. You have to move on. But to give him 20 seconds, as much as this guy has given for this club, you at least maybe need to not be so hard. Now, flip side of that is, was it just 20 seconds? I mean, it seems like it. When there's smoke, there's fire. So you have to take, I mean, Tom's been pretty reliable. So it doesn't look, my concern is it doesn't look good for the club image.
It's really not a good look.
Because our they are future players. Ali's replacement. Are they going to want to come now, knowing the fact that, yeah, in a couple years, if maybe I don't want to sign or do something, is he going to treat me like this? And these are all valid points that we're seeing on Twitter right now. The emotions, the feelings, they are.
Yeah. Could you imagine if the Eagles said to Jason Kelce, like, oh, well, we're not bringing you back next year.
The fans would be in an uproar.
Like, a guy that's a leader for the team, like that would be horrible. And that's how I kind of compare this.
The best case scenario would have been for Ernst to say, hey, look, we're moving on, but we want you here to be kind of as like the kind of transition captain, bring in, maybe it's Jesus Bueno, kind of mentor him, mentor the team, kind of be that like hump for the next generation of leadership on this club. And I forget who it was on Twitter brought up an interesting point. Maybe that discussion did happen.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know all.
We don't know all the details. Maybe they said, hey, look, we're moving on. You're going to have to take a pay cut. We want you to be here for another year. We want you to be the transitional captain, maybe make a start here and there. Maybe Ali said no. Well, okay, but you're not worth, what is it? Todd, what's he making? 1 point?
Yeah, it's a little bit over $1 million.
Yeah, but you're not worth it at this point in your career. I get that he only has one career, so he's got to make his money. And maybe he said that too. I kind of find that hard to believe, but that is reality situation with some veterans. You see that in other sports. At the end of the day, I think the reality is that could have been handled better. If it really, truly was a 20-second conversation, it needed to be handled better.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I'm not shocked at all that the conversation didn't last more than 20 seconds because, like I said, I mean, it's happened with Austin Trusty. It's happened to Harris Mdunanan. And at the end of the day, it's a business. But your club captain, this guy has completely changed this club. He's given his heart and soul to Philadelphia. Jim Curtin said at some point, I believe, that they should legit build a statue for Ale. And I agree.
Yeah, I do too.
I mean, he's 100% getting in the Ring of Honor. And for people out there that think that he shouldn't be in it, I mean, you guys are a joke.
Wait a minute. Are there legitimately people that think he should not be in Hall?
Yeah, there's been people out there arguing that he shouldn't be in it. Maybe this is a hot take, but I think that he's probably more deserving than Sebastien Le Toux.
It's not a hot take. It's really not, because the way he has changed his culture, energizes fan base. That's what you want in your leader. Mm-hmm. And I'm sorry that maybe he's not the sexy goal scorer, but sometimes goals aren't what leadership is. And leadership is what wins championships. When you get leaders in that room, because you and I have seen it. We've been on teams. Todd, you've been on teams. When you have leaders in that room, it outweighs talent every single time.
Yeah, 100%.
It does. And I'll stick by that, because I've had teams that had less talent. Now, this is swimming. I get it's a different sport. But I've had teams with less talent do more because we had leaders. And I have teams that were like awesome, that had no leaders, and they fell apart. You got to have leadership. And he's one of the best leaders I've ever seen, from his talks, from how he conducts himself. He is a true leader.
Yeah, and what I think is missed too is that, he can be that translator for the Spanish-speaking players, so the coaching staff. Jim Curtin always says that, he's my communicator. Whenever there's an issue in the locker room, he brings those problems forward. When I need to get something across, he brings it across to the players. And you can't fix something. You can't change something like that overnight. And yes, I mean, I get it from an Ernst Tanner standpoint that, okay, yeah, he's making a little over $1 million. And if the Union didn't buy that down with Tam, then he would be a DP player. But if Bedoya is willing to take a back seat, if he's willing to say, all right, I'll come off the bench, because he looked effective in League's Cup coming off the bench, scored 2 goals, I think.
Yeah, and he
Yeah.
was amazing. And we had this discussion on your last spot, I think. Was it with Jose, you and I, and Jillian? Like, if he comes off the bench as super sub, I think that's the best case scenario for him in his career. And maybe that's what Ernst was saying. Like, I want you to be this, and maybe Ali didn't.
Yeah, we don't know all the
We
details.
don't know
there.
all the details.
Yeah, and of course, there's always 2 sides to every story. So, I mean, I would love to
Exactly.
get Ale's thoughts on this. And even, hearing from Ernst Tanner exactly what was said. What did you guys offer?
Yeah, right.
I don't think Ale would shy away and say, this is what I was asking for. This is what they offered me, or this isn't what they offered me. Of course, there's probably more to this story. But I think it's also telling, too, when you look on Instagram, that you have Jakob Glesnes coming out with a post on Instagram, and it said this: "Look, what he has done for this club over the last 7.5 years. Great player, great teammate, and great leader. A true leader that should end his career for this club and nowhere else. Give this man the respect he deserves." Bedoya, Wagner, and Dani Gazdag, we're recording this podcast on Friday night, almost midnight. And that's all the people that we've seen so far on the Union's team repost this Instagram message. And remember, we saw something similar on social media with Sergio Santos when he was traded to Cincinnati. A whole bunch of players posted how they were upset on social media. Jose Martinez and Julian Kranza were beefing in the game against DC United because the Union had a penalty kick. Jose wanted to take the penalty and was hoping that he would convert it. If he did that, he would show his shirt underneath, which was a message for support to Sergio Santos. And I don't know if you guys remember this, but Julian Kranza actually missed a penalty because of that fight with Jose Martinez. And Bedoya gets involved. And by the way, Bedoya was actually on a hat trick too. And Julian Kranza eventually did score his goal to get a hat trick. But the team was not happy that they traded Sergio Santos. I mean, he was key in those videos that the social media team would put out. Remember? Michael Jackson, Michael Jackson, Michael Jackson. Like, that guy was a clown in the locker room. He kept them together. And again, it's a credit to Ernst Tanner finding these players that are going to fill that locker room up nicely, buy into the family first atmosphere. But that didn't sit well with this team. And now you're having key players in Kai Wagner, Jakob Glesnes. And yes, I know we don't know the future of Kai Wagner. Dani Gazdag another player, huge player for this squad. And they're all coming out saying something. And I would imagine we'll probably see more players come out in support of their captain. That's not a great look, once again, for this club. And like you said, Jillian, right before playoffs, too. All this stuff's coming out. This is terrible timing.
Yeah, terrible. Like right now, this was a time for the players to, rest up a bit, get ready for the playoffs and get that mindset and all that. And then this happens,
Mhm.
And I thought it was really telling too, when, seeing Glesnes post that he doesn't interact on social media nearly as much as some of the other guys. Like, I don't see him post stories much at all. And that came out, and it makes sense, his, Bedoya's wife is Norwegian, and, their families are really close and everything.
Mhm.
So this is totally understandable. It's just, I mean, just reading that, of course, my phone was like blowing up
Oh, I know.
when I went and checked it this afternoon, because I'd been, working all day. But oh my goodness, like if I'm going through there, it's like, wow, it's just like the whole thing leaves a bad taste in my mouth. And yeah, Ali just deserves better, plain and simple.
I mean, I thought we would be going into decision day talking about how the Union can secure third place in the Eastern Conference.
This is just like a whole big cloud over everything.
Now we're going to have to deal with this. And you know the questions at the press conference this week are going to be around all these articles.
Yes.
The Kai issue, the Ali issue. And it's not the distraction you want. Could everything still pan out? Sure. But this now makes it 10 times harder. If I'm Jim, you have to, when those players get back, have a meeting right away.
Yeah.
Like, it has to be like a players only, or like, we got to get down to business. Like, what is going on here? Like, what is going on? Where are our priorities? We got to maintain focus, because, and I'm not trying to deviate here, but this could get bad really quick. And by really quick, not showing up in the first round. And even though they're professionals, they're human beings.
This could go really badly, or it could go really well, depending on how this is handled moving forward. Because you could also see these guys like, okay, this is their last chance altogether as a group to.
And let's ride out. Let's go one more. Yes.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm saying that, because it's one last ride. Let's do it. See what happens. And we're off on the sunset together. Cool. But then you also got to worry about Jakob had offers. Jose had offers. Danny had interests from Spain. I mean, Bizo. Look where, that whole situation. I mean, Jack McGlynn. He's, Julian. I mean, if they're all really, what's to say other than their contract, and I get all that. This needs to be squashed immediately, and we need to get back on focus. And if it is one last ride, so be it. But then let's make it one last ride together.
Well, I think there was always the understanding that this was going to be the last ride. I mean, Ernst Tanner even said as much, that he was surprised that Kai Wagner and Julian Kranzer are still here, that they were able to run it back last year. And yeah, it's not really panned out the way that the union, the fans, the coaching staff would have wanted. And Jim Curtin even talked about this during the media day, and he asked Jack Elliott this, like, isn't it surprising that we've played this many games? It doesn't feel like we sit in fourth place overall in MLS, but yet here we are sitting in fourth place, and it doesn't feel that way at all. And I mean, he's right. No, like, everybody's going to tell you that, yeah, it doesn't feel like the Union are a fourth place team overall in MLS, but yet that's the truth. They are, despite all the games that they played, they sit at 55 points, only 8 losses in MLS play this season. And this team is finding a way to get it done with all the injuries, with the players that have been loaned out. And maybe this will be their motivation, saying, hey, look, let's go for this. This team's going to look completely different next season. But if I'm being honest, the way that Ernst Tanner is treated Alejandro Bedoya, my big concern is what's stopping players that have contracts right now from saying in the offseason, get me out of Philadelphia. I saw the way that you treated the club captain that was here a lot longer than I have been here. You treated him that way. What's stopping you, to your point, Jillian? What's stopping you from treating me that way? What's stopping players looking at this situation and saying, ooh, I don't know if I want to play for a sporting director, a GM that treats his players that way. I don't think I want to sign for the Union. What's stopping those players? And that's what concerns me for this whole thing. And I'm not saying that Ernst Tanner deserves to get fired. I'm not saying that, because I believe that no player should ever be bigger than the club, no matter who you are. Because if you let that be, then no GM's ever going to want to work for your club when you have an owner saying, well, what's the point of me being the GM when you're letting the players run the team? But you've got to treat your club captain a better way. If he's willing, and it sounded like he wanted to come back for one more year. If he's willing to come back for less money, now we don't know if that's true or not. It seems like in this Athletic article that Ale was planning on playing one more season and then retiring. Reading Jacob's statement, seems like Ale wanted to play one more year and then retire with the Union. If he's okay taking a back seat on this club, to your point, Kyle, hey, I'll help you transition the next club captain here for X amount of years. I'll take a back row seat, continue to help develop and lead these young players. Then why not bring him back? Why not? And you need those veteran players. Because if you get rid of a Julian Kranza, you get rid of a Kai Wagner, a Joe Bendick, which I know fans aren't high on. But look, Joe adds a lot to this team because of his veteran leadership. He's been in MLS for years. And he can tell you things that a lot of players in MLS can't relate to. And so I think that in your locker room is very, very valuable. And that's my big concern. Are players going to say at the end of the season, get me out of Philadelphia because I don't want to deal with Ernst Tanner? And then that puts Jay Sugarman in an awkward position. Do I move on from my sporting director that has helped change this club completely? He's made me a lot of money with selling both Aronson brothers, Mark McKenzie. It's a tricky situation the Union find themselves in.
I 100% agree.
I mean, that's why I made that post earlier today. I said, where does this put Ernst's security? Do I think Ernst is going to go anywhere? No. I mean, but to your point, Todd, it has gone from an Ernst we trust, and I still trust Ernst. I mean, he has brought in good talent. He's built this club. But now you're starting to see this, and these players going, it's human to go, I wonder, because I've seen this happen before. But you have to value the players. You have to collaborate with players. I always say, the coaching staff and players have to be on the same page. If it's not going to work. Same with front office. Even in professional sports, I think everybody has to be on the same page. So, I mean, it is a very big concern, and I think it's a concern we've all shared it. And there's other people that share this too. And to your point, there was when this news broke last night too, that article.
We were at the event.
We were at the event, and what was really interesting is there was some reaction of, this is not shocking. Like, people weren't like, oh, wow, what is going on here? People were like, yeah, yep. And you know what I'm talking about too, because we were all there, and it's like, all right. So I do think something needs to change. Is it like, okay, we got a clean office? No, I'm not going there. No. I just think we need to handle certain situations on a case-by-case basis. I don't know how you feel about that, Todd, but at this point, Ale deserves better. And we got to find a way to solve this. Is it solvable? Probably not. If I'm a betting man, he's probably gone. But you got to figure out how to patch up this situation for the future. So I don't know if there is.
Yeah, I think it's going to be telling what happens here in the next couple of weeks. I mean, is this team going to be one and done in the playoffs? You'd hope not. I mean, even before all this drama is broke, I wasn't feeling that confident in this team. I just don't have the same vibes that I had last year with this club. But it's the playoffs. Anything can happen, so we'll see what happens. But, I mean, just not great timing. And then we'll move on to the Kai Wagner news. I mean, it's not really too much that we need to talk about with Kai, but Tom Bogert said Wagner, 26, is also out of contract at the end of the season, and sources say talks about a potential extension have gotten nowhere all season. We know that because of Jose Nunez of Across the Pitch. The defender has received strong European interest, including an offer from Greek club AEK Athens. Sources familiar with the situation said on Thursday, the Greek side is coached by former San Jose Earthquakes head coach Mateus Almeida. And man, he was a character in MLS there.
The last
couple years with San Jose. Tom also said that there's the possibility of Kai Wagner staying in MLS still. And there's just not too much to say about Kai Wagner because I feel like we've all talked about that a lot on our show. but it does feel like the end of an era, right? And I keep repeating myself. I think last year was the window for the Union to win MLS Cup. And that's not to say, that Ernst Tanner doesn't sign more stud players that surprise us or better than a Kai Wagner, better than a Julian Kranza. I mean, we don't know. Those players, I'm sure, are out there, but we don't know. I mean, we can only live in the present, and we know what we have right here, and we know these players are good enough to getting us back to another MLS Cup. Will it happen? I'm not too sure. I don't feel like it personally. Maybe you guys feel indifferent, but it's just not good vibes around the club. And again, I'll repeat myself. If Kai Wagner ends up in MLS, specifically Cincinnati, it's not going to be good for Jay Sugarman, not going to be good for Ernst Tanner, because Kai Wagner, Jim Curtin have done everything in their power to get the fans on their sides. Jim Curtin saying everything right in the press conferences, saying we want Kai Wagner to stay. He's a great player. I would love for him to stay. His family's happy here in Philadelphia. He's happy here in Philadelphia. Kai Wagner is saying he's happy here in Philadelphia. And if he goes to Cincinnati, not saying that happens, but I mean, the connections, right? I mean, Chris Albright, Pat Noonan, Sergio Santos, his best friend. I mean, it's Union 2.0.
That, or he goes to some MLS darling, like I said, and parlays that into going to Europe. But I think if he doesn't go to Europe now, I think he ends up in Cincinnati. I mean,
I just don't think the interest is there in Europe.
I don't either. And I think Cincinnati makes too much sense. And do I know something? Do you know something that everybody else doesn't know? No, we're just speculating. But that relationship with that office, with the head coach, with Sergio,
it makes sense.
It makes way too much sense. And they got money. And now they can only pay him 15%, like that increase, which is, at the end of the day, it's probably going to end up being less than what he wants. And
that's the other side of this too, right? We don't know for sure exactly what Kai Wagner is asking. We're all assuming that he wants to be a DP because he's saying he wants more money. Ernst Tanner said the first contract extension they offered wasn't really an increase. The second one was a little bit of an increase, and he turned that down. And Kai Wagner is right there, close to that threshold where he almost qualifies for a DP. And you would imagine the Union would have no issues at all paying 50% that he can get on the open market as a free agent. Maybe they did offer him that, and maybe he turned that down, and maybe he does want crazy money.
Or maybe he just wants to be the highest left back in the league. I mean, maybe he just wants a little bit more than 15%. Maybe he just wants a little bit more security moving forward. I don't know.
And I don't blame Kai. You only get one.
No, I don't either. I don't either. It's the same way I don't blame Corey Burke or anybody for moving on. It just, I don't know. I just feel like the bridge has been burned, and there's, at this point, egos and feelings got involved in business, and there's no turning back now. I mean, it's unfortunate. And again, at the end of the day, I will still wait to see what happens. I think I'm kind of with Jim. I want to be optimistic, but my brain says it's probably this is it for Kai. And
and if he goes to Europe, okay, fine. If he goes to another MLS team, if he goes to Cincinnati, do you understand how pissed the fans are going to be?
At Sugarman and Ernst.
Like, the whole coffin thing? Oh, God.
I don't know if
it reached that level, but, like, I'm just saying, like, I know there will be many fans that would be not pleased if he ended up on, like, Cincinnati.
And then it came out that he made the same amount of money he did this year.
Yeah, now that...
Could you imagine that, Todd? Once it came out, he took the same amount of money that he made this year, and just to spite him. I'm not saying he would do that, but, that would even be crazier.
Again, my whole issue when we were talking about Bedoya is, what if players don't want to play under Ernst Tanner anymore? What if this stops potential players for signing with the Union? And I'm not saying you fire Ernst Tanner because he's done wonders for this club.
Yeah.
But you're kind of almost put in a situation where you might need to move on from Ernst Tanner if it's going to truly affect you from signing players in the future. And it's a real possibility because if an agent's doing his job, looking at the best situation for his client and saying, wow, look what's happened with a couple high-profile players at this club not getting contract extensions. They've been thrown to the curb. Do you think an agent's going to want his players in that type of situation? Absolutely not. And that's why I say Jay Sugarman's now finding himself in a difficult situation.
No, he is. And remember that line from the Batman movie? You either die a hero or you see yourself live long enough to become a villain.
Yeah.
Maybe it's coming to the point, and I hate to say this, that maybe Ernst's time is kind of slowly ticking down. You know what I'm saying? It's a fair point. Do I want to see that? No. I mean, I hope
go that way.
It could go that way. It could go that way very fast. I mean, we see this in the NFL. We see this baseball. I mean, I saw it with the Giants. I mean, I saw it with Giants, Brian Sabian, like that overnight, and he was gone. I don't know. Something's going to have to change. And you're right, Todd. He's putting Sugarman in a hard place because Sugarman, at the end of the day, if he comes in, Ernst says, hey, we're going to have to start spending. Jay's going to say, well, wait a minute. I hired you because you said we didn't need to spend. You see where I'm going with this? Necessary. Now, I know the league has changed since Ernst was hired, but I don't know. I just don't know. What are your thoughts?
Well, it's like what if some players look at it, it's like, well, they won't pay the players, they get to a certain point where they're good and they really deserve getting more pay. And you're going to get sold, and just use the younger players that are cheaper.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's going to be very telling. It is going to be very telling. And for people that are new, maybe this is their first season, buckle up because it's going to get real interesting real quick in the next, from now till February.
And think about this. There's a lot of newer fans that haven't been, with the team through the not so great times.
We are one of those fans.
Yeah, I mean,
I followed from a distance, but
we weren't like as into it as much until like 2019 or so.
But I mean, we're going to be here. My concern is how many of those fans that maybe aren't built to be through the lean times are going to be here. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, we talked about on your show where, I'm confident that there's going to be hotels built and the Union sold out every single game this season. And then the next step is expanding Subaru Park. But if you chase away those fans because, you go back to that's so Union moments, well, then you're not expanding the stadium.
You're not doing anything.
So, I mean, this is, I'm not trying to overreact at all.
None of us are. We're trying to be rational here and objective, and that's okay.
This situation, I think the Union should have never have got themselves into. What Kai Wagner said to the media and everything, Ernst Tanner saying to the media, all that should have been squashed. It shouldn't have got as far as it did. And now you add everything that's going on with Bedoya, the club captain, players speaking out. And I have no problems with the players speaking out. But things are about to get really interesting here in Philadelphia. And I'm sure we're going to see quotes leading up to the playoffs from players. I'm sure we're going to see more players speaking out on social media. And it's up to Jim Curtin, Ale Bedoya, trying to gain control on that locker room. Hey, look, let's bunker down. Let's go for this. And whatever happens, happens.
And that's all you can hope for. And that, like we said earlier, it's one last ride. And if it is one last ride, let's make it the best ride.
Just not like Russell Wilson, let's ride, right? Because, what a train wreck that is out in Denver.
Oh, you had to bring that.
My goodness, yeah.
Hey, Dolphins, man. Let's put 70 on them. But in all honesty, what you don't want to see, and here's what it would be telling. we get like we get the third seed, and they show up and they get blown out both games, then you know something's really wrong in Paradise. And I don't want to leave it on that note, but it's a reality situation. If they don't show up, because even games this year where the Union have gotten beaten, they've always played very well. If they do what some MLS teams have done, where we just see them just kind of give up, then you know there's a problem. And that's what I hope we don't see.
Yeah, interesting times ahead. But Kyle and Jillian, thank you guys so much for coming on the podcast. And again, depending on when you guys release the episode we record, this could be episode 1 or 2. I'm not sure. So where can people find you guys on social media?
So on Twitter, we're at TOTWAG, and on Instagram and Facebook at the One Team We Agree On. My personal Twitter handle is silly_Jilly. And Kyle?
I'm at Coach Omni on Twitter.
Yeah.
Simple enough. And if you guys aren't following the podcast on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, follow at Free Kick Pod, where we get your podcast, The Free Kick. Be sure to like, review, subscribe, all that jazz to stay up to date for every episode that drops. YouTube channel, youtube.com/freekickpod. I love you, Apple. Please let me upload some more videos without blocking me. I will continue to buy Apple products too, whatever you guys need me to do, as long as you guys let me post videos. So simping for Apple, I guess, should be the episode of the title. But until then, my name is Todd, and this is the Free Kick Podcast.